Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing today? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. I'm good. Thank you for asking. For today, it's gonna be more of a review lecture, you could say. We're gonna just review some topics like function calling and then a little bit of Redux as well. Before we get into that, we would probably wait for a little more, I guess, for more people to join. Let's just wait for like a couple more minutes. Also, I would suggest everyone to use their name that's registered with us for attendance purposes. If you have entered with a different name, please change it back to your original. Thank you. All right, amazing. So since we are here, let me ask you guys, how do you feel about Redux based on this week? Are you feeling good about it? Do you think you got the concept, or is there something that's still not as clear? Any questions, comments, or concerns that you have? Anyone? Okay, so Navita says need to put some time. Practicing definitely. Still learning mode. Positive. Esra says I need more practical examples on how to create the Redux. So by practical examples, do you mean like real life situations where we would ideally need Redux? Is that it? Esra, I believe you asked the question. Oh, that we will definitely do. So that kind of is a plan for next week. But yeah, for this week, it was more about trying to give you guys the basics and show you how it works essentially. It's the same as we did with React, kind of give you an idea of what it's gonna be like, and then we will be going forward doing projects with that concept. Yeah, definitely. We are gonna show you examples. That's not a problem. Like we're gonna show you a proper application next week, very likely. Because next week is gonna be more like demonstrating how React is going to work in real life or in proper projects, big projects. Maybe not as big, but relatively. So yeah, we'll do that. But there are a few things that you guys should be very clear about before moving forward. Is number one, the basics of Redux. Number two, actually, this one's the most important. It's the function calling and callback functions. These are the things that are very important while doing Redux because it requires a lot of those concepts. So now my question would be, how many of you struggle with function calling and callback functions? Okay. Esther says she has an issue with that. Anyone else? All right. So we will take a look into it this lecture then. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let me open up VS Code quickly. Alrighty. Let me just move this to another screen. Okay, good. So I will open a new one over here. So let me call this December 6th. folders there, new file. So what do we understand about callback functions? What do you guys think callback functions are? Anyone with answers? Let's try to keep this as interactive as we can, because that's the best way to learn these concepts. So Semaine says repetitive codes, called from component and return value of parent. Yes, that's a React concept as well. Anyone else? Functions that is called after other function executed. It does have that aspect to it. Function inside a function, definitely. That's also another way of doing it. But to be honest, that's what it essentially is. In very simple terms, it's a function inside a function. So Anna says call after do some action. Yeah, definitely. Like these, you can be used, these functions, the callback functions can be used for various different ideas. But the main idea is being able to use a function within a function and it doing a separate job on its own. So let's do a very simple example, okay? So let me write down a function over here, say greet. Function, wait, why is it not typing? There you go. So function greet, right? So the idea for this function is I will be getting a name. Let me comment over here. I'll be getting name or greeting with name actually. Greeting with name and say goodbye. Right? Okay. So let the function greet be our main function. So since we have to display it with name, we can just straight up write it inside the function block, or we can take it as a parameter. So why not take it as a parameter over here? I will write down name, and inside this, I will console.log, say, okay, I need the backtick. Hello. Name. Okay, let's try to display this. Say greet John. So SSS, sometimes I'm confused on when to pass an argument in the function. Okay, so the whole idea about passing an argument into the function is that it's on a need basis. Now, say I have multiple console.logs over here, right? With the same name. Say console.log welcome and then name. So the thing is, if I am writing down the name inside the console.log block, I wouldn't be able to make it dynamic in a way to say. So the whole idea behind me passing the variable over here is so that it can be used multiple times throughout the function without me having to make it static by declaring the name right away. Does that make sense? Like, at least for this example, you could make that kind of an explanation. Does that make sense, Ezra? All right, amazing. So, yeah, just we're gonna take a look at a few more examples about this. Don't worry. So, okay. Now let me try to run this actually. Node class. Okay. I think I messed up the syntax over here. Well, regardless, I can just do this. And it should work the same. No, it shouldn't actually, because for that I need the backtick. Okay. Just put a comma over here too. That's what's missing. Okay, node commas. Node is for running Node.js, yes. Am I getting the value properly? I'm just gonna run it in the terminal for now, because this is not really a website. I'm just showing function calling. Okay, there you go. Anyways, now the thing is, like, it should be working inside backtick as well. I'm not sure what's going on. I think I got the syntax mixed up, but okay. Let me just write it like this. Welcome plus name. And let me do this. All right. That's why. Oh, there you go. Okay. You're so used to React now. Because if you remember, for React Redux, we just pass in the variable and write it like that. That's it. You don't need dollar signs. So, okay. This should work. Node class. Okay, there you go. Let me just get rid of this. All right, back to the concept. So I'm just greeting over here based on the name, but now let's get to the idea of callback functions. So I want to create a function that will just say goodbye. So let me just write down a function saying function farewell. There you go. There it is. So for function farewell, I'm just gonna console.log goodbye for now. Okay, goodbye. All right. So now I have this farewell function, but how do I just integrate that with my greeting? I can just pass this farewell function as a callback function into greet. So let me just call this callback. And over here after John, I will just pass in farewell. Once that's done, I'm just writing down callback should be good enough. Let's try it again. Node class. See? So I'm essentially passing the function itself as a parameter over here and using it inside my greet function. Make sense? So why is it called callback function? I never actually thought of it like that. Let me search it up. Why is callback function called callback function? Well, my guess is it's because we're calling it back into a separate function itself. So yeah, let me just see what the proper definition would be.
I think Ezra is asking why the callback is added there. Why you use a callback on the parameter.
Oh, okay. The question is, why did you add the second argument to the... Okay, got it. My bad. I think I misread it. Okay. So the question is, why did you add second argument callback in the function greet? Oh, that's because I want to use it inside greet, right? Essentially, I'm just passing it as a parameter in order to be able to access it as a callback function inside my greet function. Does that make sense? Okay, let me elaborate. So, okay, we understand how the process is working, right? That we are taking this code, taking this function and passing it as a parameter, and it's just essentially printing it. Change the name so that it's easier for it to understand. Okay, you mean this name, right? Let me just call it func. Yeah, we can call no, if we have it in it as a parameter, well, let's try it. Usually let me see. Callback is a predefined name here? No, it's not. I just named it. Okay, I'll get to that. Let me just check out this. Okay. So yeah. Get rid of this as well, actually. So if it's not used anywhere, you should be able to just pass the name John. Exactly. So the function over here, it's not being called. So even if it's set as a parameter over here, it won't affect it. But what I understand is the name callback is kind of making confusions over here. Is callback another function? It's just, okay, so it works like this. You see, let me first just do it with the name then, I guess. VAR, then intro is equal to,
Tasneem, I think if you can make another function, like you have a farewell function, then you can have another congratulations function and have a console log congratulations. And at one point you can send farewell, and at one point you can send congratulations.
yeah,
So I think that would probably make it more easier for understanding purposes.
definitely I will do that. But first, let me just clear out how the whole variable thing is working. So let me just pass in a name that says maybe, I don't know, Becca. Okay. So the idea is I can pass this over here, this variable, and it should still print the name Becca. Let me try. Node class. Okay. So let's try to understand how this is working over here. This variable intro and the variable over here called name, these are separate variables, right? But how are they essentially getting the same value? So people who had questions about why we're passing the other function and how it's getting the value, this could answer your question. Because I'm passing intro, right? And when I pass intro, does that mean intro and will give the variable name the same value it had? It does. Okay, so understand it like this, all right? Um, what's a good example to show you guys? I think I might have to go to the bag example. Okay, so let's say, okay, let me just think of a good example. Okay, say this right here is a pot, okay? This right here is a pot. Now, I also have a bottle with me, okay? Let's consider this as the bottle. And then I have a fountain over here that just gives us water. So I take water from the fountain, put it in the bottle, and I put the same water, use the bottle to carry the water to the pot and put the water inside the bottle, inside the pot. So essentially, is the same water that's getting transferred, it's just the containers that are different. Is it relatable? Does that make sense? So the contents are gonna be the same, it's just the container that's changing. The same over here. So the idea for this is I'm passing the variable intro. It's essentially just gonna pass the value it holds inside. But they are not relatable in any way. Which ones? The two variables? Or the example with this code? Okay, the variables, they're independent variables on their own. But when I'm passing intro as a parameter over here or as an argument, what's happening is intro is essentially just passing the value it holds. Intro is not passing itself into the function, if that makes sense. It's like that example. You take water from the fountain in your bottle, and you take the bottle to a pot and pour the water in the pot. So essentially, you're just carrying the water from one container to another. Same over here. Intro holds a value. You're just taking that value and passing it into greet with just a different name. That's it. Does that make sense, Esra? Okay, so this is just the idea of passing variables as parameters. But when it comes to functions, let me call this, you can call this whatever you like, but just for the sake of it, I'm gonna call it callback, okay? So let's say callback over here, it's a function itself, right? It's the same process. It's the same as the intro and name situation over here. So callback over here is a function itself. Now, when I pass the variable farewell, should callback get the value or whatever's inside farewell, or is callback just going to be a empty function? So for those who had confusions, please let me know. So essentially, will callback be getting the values or whatever's inside the contents of farewell? Yes, but callback is function, how it will the same value as farewell. Exactly. So both are functions. Name is a variable, intro is a variable. Callback is a function, farewell is a function. Make sense? It's the same idea again. Take water from the fountain in your bottle. You take the bottle to the pot, pour the water in the pot. Something like that. Does that make sense for you, Asra? Why callback is gonna hold the same contents as farewell? Do you have to initialize callback as a function in the argument? No. Since we're already passing in a function that's gonna hold the contents, we don't really have to declare anything over here. The same as name. Did I have to initialize name? No, right? Let's just think of it as sort of like a variable, you could say. But this variable only holds values, and this variable will only hold functions. Does that make sense, Esra? All right, amazing. Anyone else not sure about how or why we're passing in another function and how the function in the greet function is getting those contents? Anyone with confusions about that? If you do have, let me know, I'll repeat. Okay, so then we can proceed. Now, since we have our callback over here, we can just write down callback, and it should display goodbye. Node class. There you go. Does that make sense? Okay. What if we have another function? Already declared saying, say, congrats. And let me just console.log congrats. So if I change this, actually I'm missing something here. So if I change this to congrats, what do you think is gonna get displayed over here in my terminal? Anyone? Becca, congrats, right? Let me just display it really quick. Okay. Yep, there you go. So that's another concept. So any function that you send, you will be getting the contents of that function only, right? Is that clear for everyone? Amazing, okay. So I want you guys to tell me, now if I wanted to pass a variable into the callback function, how would I do that? Would just doing this work? And maybe I change this to something as well. I put a variable there plus say name. Will this work? What do you guys think? Let's try it. Node class. It works. So what's the summary for this? You can send in any function inside another function using the parameters. Exactly. Functions can be sent. This is a concept that's very important in what? Anyone, any ideas? Like why this concept is so important for your front-end development? Reusability of code, definitely. But from what you've seen, Navid says to pass functions around, definitely. But from what we've seen in our classes, this is actually one of the biggest parts of React. Essentially, this is how we communicate between our different files, between the parents and childs, right? Callback functions. Does that make sense? You're gonna see I mean, if you take a look back at the videos and all that, you're probably gonna see much more detailed or much bigger aspects of callback functions. But over there, we don't really go through the basics because we have to cover other concepts as well. But yeah, because we just felt like this could have been an issue later on. and it's good to have this cleared out. If the callback argument is variable, how are you able to use it as a function inside greet function? Does it convert it to a function? I mean, this is probably not the correct term for it, but you could just call this a function variable. So this right here, it's only getting a function because we're passing in a function. So, okay, now tell me this. What is a variable? A container, right? Now, in other programming languages, you kind of have to declare the type for every single variable, but JavaScript kind of takes care of that for you. You don't have to mention the type of variable it is. So essentially, you could just say it's like an empty container. You can throw in whatever you like inside, right? So with that idea, you see two examples in this because it's dynamic programming, you're correct. So with that idea, you have two examples in this. One where we're passing in just a value, other where we're passing in a callback function. Does that make sense? Now, what if I want to display an array of objects? Why not, right? So let me write const, not here though. I think it should be good to do it over here. Say const. Okay, give me an array of object, guys. Help me out here. Say ARROB. What should this array look like? How should I write this down? Should I start off with a third bracket? In other words, the square bracket, or should I just start off with the curly brace, given I'm having multiple objects over here? Anyone with answers? Square brackets? Okay, let's do that. So let me first write down name. And it's gonna be, say, John. Okay, John needs to be in a quotation. So activity is greeting, comma, new object, name is Becca, and activity is congratulating. Congrats. Okay, so our array of objects is created. Now, what if I get rid of all this from here and just pass in this ARROB? What should it display? Anyone? It shows me the whole array of objects. In other words, it doesn't matter what it is, what kind of data it is, JavaScript takes care of it. So as a variable, you can even pass an array of objects or even a JSON file as well. Does that make sense? Anyone, any questions? Esther, I believe you had a little confusion about it earlier. Is that clear for you? How did it print in console? So you see, okay, do you understand that over here in greet, I'm passing in congrats as a parameter over here, this function congrats, and callback kinda gets whatever is inside function, the function congrats. Is that clear for you, Esra? Okay. So as you can see, congrats, that function, it requires a parameter, right? So I'm passing in a parameter over here. So if the function callback gets whatever is inside the function congrats, it's gonna get the same parameters as well, right? Does that make sense, Esra? Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna get the same parameter as well. So if I send in the array of objects over here as my variable that's being passed into the function, it's gonna get displayed because I'm essentially just console.logging the parameter over here. Does that make sense? Amazing. Yeah, I could even write dot activity. Let's see what this looks like. Load class. It's getting undefined. Why? Because this does not really have any object inside it right now. So it's a plain variable. So we can't really just do separate items from the object over here. So Esther asks, why did you not pass the callback argument into congrats? Is it not supposed to add a second argument to pass callback? No. So think of it this way. This function callback is gonna get, let me annotate, okay? This is the function callback. This is the function congrats, right? Let me write it down. Congrats. And over here I have callback. So now back to what I was saying. So the function congrats is gonna pass in whatever's inside to the function callback, right? Does that make sense? That means it's gonna pass its parameter and contents, all of that, right? So all this will be inside callback function as well. If you want to pass the whole greet function in congrats function, then why did you not pass greet function? No, I'm not really passing the whole greet function into the congrats function. I'm just passing some values from the greet function into the congrats function. So it essentially is working like this. Well, let me draw another square here. Let's call this the greet function. Okay. Understand this. So callback function is already inside greet, right? If we want to print values that are inside greet but not inside congrats, we will have to pass the function congrats into greet. So that's where callback helps. Callback is sort of like a middleman, you could say. Callback takes whatever's inside congrats and takes it into greet and just does exactly what congrats does. You could say callback is an exact replica of congrats. Does that make sense? Ezra, does that answer your question? Okay. No, let me read your questions again. It's not supposed to be a second. I can, but essentially it's still gonna be the same. So I can change it to what say I can even write down high. It does not change a lot. It's still gonna work the same. Node class. Yeah, but I don't think that's where the issue is. I'm just trying to read your questions to find the issue that you're actually facing. Okay, so you're asking if I wanted to pass the whole greet function in congrats function, then why did I not pass the greet function? Right? Is that your question? Okay. So based on that question, do you think this is how it's working? Where I have the greet function over here, and I have the callback function here, and I have the congrats function over here. Just write down greet. I think I should have a different color for this, right? Greet, and let me call this, okay, right now it's called hi, so let me call it hi. And let me name this, what was it? Congrats, right? Okay. So based on what you're saying, do you think the flow diagram goes like this? Greet values go into hi, hi values go into congrats. Is this how you think the flow diagram is working? Okay. So the thing is, this is the exact opposite order it's working in. Let's clear all this out. Let me go back to my example. The flow is essentially working like this. Let me give you an outside example. Maybe that's going to be clear. Okay, let's go back to the fountain example, actually. So this right here is a fountain, right? It has water in it. So the idea is I want to take this water and say I have a person over here. So I have a person over here who wants to drink water, but the fountain's far away. So what I will do, I will take this. Where is it? There you go. I will take this water in a container, maybe a bottle, okay? So once I take this bottle, I will be going to the person. Now, the person has his own cup that he will drink water from. So how this is working is, let me just finish drawing first. So this person wants water. I'm taking water from the fountain in my bottle. I'm taking the bottle to the guy. I'm putting it in his cup so that he can drink the water. So at the end of the day, who's the one receiving the end product? The person over here drinking the water, right? And all this in the middle, it's just a medium of transport, you could say. I'm transporting the water from here to there. So similarly, let's think of it in this way, that so this how do I put it in terms of this example now? Which character will be which? Good, okay. So congrats is essentially passing in the value, or no, congrats, name, got it, okay. All right, so let's call this, the fountain, our congrats variable, or congrats function. So let me just call this congrats. Okay, this is my congrats function. So I'm passing the water from the congrats function essentially from there to my pot, which essentially is, you could say, my callback function. Okay, so the water goes from congrats to callback. And then the water has to go into the person's pot because he will drink from there. So you can call this greet. And once the water is taken from callback into greet, the person can drink from there. So essentially, in a way, you can say, when I am using function call, this congrats.log, okay, what am I saying? It's console.log, sorry. This console.log will be over here inside the greet function. So essentially the main function is greet. So if all the activity is going on inside the greet function, we are not supposed to pass the function itself. We are passing the other functions inside greet. Does that make sense? If you're still confused, I can explain again with a different example if needed. Still confused? Okay, I guess this example is not good enough. So just to understand, so is the confusion in why we're passing what? As in like why we're passing congrats into this variable over here that's hi?
Sorry, I don't understand how is the congrats passing the name or the console.log to the greet. Like we have two arguments in the greet, right?
Mhm.
So I don't understand, like we have to pass two arguments to be able to use the greet, right?
Yeah, we are passing two arguments, intro and greet and congrats. Let me get rid of this. I don't even need this right now. So I can just even get rid of this as well. I don't want to pass the variable anymore. I'm just passing in the function. Does that clear out a little more? So this way, I only need to pass one thing, which is the function congrats. So I'll explain again what's going on, okay? The function greet is our main function doing everything that we need to, or in other words, containing the array of objects, right? Now, what we want to do is we want to console.log all that from our congrats function. Are we clear so far of what's the goal? Okay, so we want to display values that are inside the greet function. But the greet function does not know how to console.log. Only the congrats function knows how to console.log. Because of that, we are passing the function congrats over here inside the function greet. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, once we are passing in this function through the parameter, we can say the function hi is going to be the exact replica of the function congrats. Can we say that? Okay. So if that's the case, whatever value I pass in through hi is going to be displayed as in console.logged into our terminal. Does that make sense? Why that's happening? Because yes, like I said, hi function over here is an exact replica of congrats. So now the hi function also knows how to console.log information into the terminal. So greet, what it does, it essentially uses the hi function to print or display values or display the variable that it has into the terminal. Does that make sense? But why do you have to call hi function inside greet? Okay. If I don't call hi function inside greet, it won't work, right? If you see over here, the function greet, in order for that to work, I have to call it somewhere. That's the whole idea of the functions. You declare it somewhere, you call it somewhere else. But in case of why you did not write function greet hi? Because I don't want to call the function greet again. So understand this. When I pass in the function congrats through hi, it already has what I need. So say, yeah, it already has whatever value or whatever content the function congrats has inside hi. So just passing the value into hi is gonna console.log. I don't have to call the function greet again. We're already inside the function greet. Is this clear that over here in line 11, we're already inside the function greet? Is that clear for you? Okay, so if we're already inside the function, do we need to call the function again? What do you think? No, right? We're already inside the function, so we don't have to call it again. Exactly. So as I was saying, the greet function, it already had the values. Am I correct? So the greet function already knows the values, but can the greet function display anything into the terminal? No. So for that, we need help, correct? Answers, anyone? So yeah, since the greet function does not know how to print anything into the terminal, we need help from another function. Now in this case, we don't have to create the function again inside greet. Why? Because we have a similar function created somewhere else that just essentially displays information into our terminal. So it's fair to say, if we call this function, we are okay with displaying whatever we have to on the terminal. Esra asks, then we can pass greet without writing hi. Yeah, you can pass greet even if this is not there. It's not gonna do anything. Why? Because right now greet only holds values. Greet does not do anything. But yeah, in order to add functionality to the greet function, we're calling the other function congrats. So when we pass the function congrats as a parameter over here, the function hi over here is gonna get the same values as congrats. So later on, does this mean I can use the same functionality inside greet, which will be essentially displaying information into our terminal? Can I say that now greet can also display information into the terminal? Does that make sense? Okay, so in order to do that, we have to pass the value that greet holds into the hi function, right? The hi function. Does that make sense? All right, amazing. And if I pass the value into the hi function, what's the hi function gonna do? Anyone? Exactly. So it's essentially gonna print the array of objects, which is ARROB, right? Print the whole array. Esra, is that clear for you? Okay, then essentially that's all that's happening. So Semaine asks, whole of this code is just for fewer codes. So yes, this way you don't have to write console.log again and again. Just call this function. Right now, it doesn't seem that useful. It's the same as when we were doing React, because this is a very basic example just to help you guys understand what's going on in a deep level. But yes, whatever is going on inside the congrats function, you could even do addition subtractions inside. So yeah, whatever is inside this will be done inside this. Let me actually do it. Let me create another function over here. Let me just get rid of this. So let me see, function. The previous example, was it clear for everyone on how the thing was working? Esra, you had questions? Is it clear for you? Or do you want me to explain again? Okay, so let's see another example now, okay? Say I have function, and let me call this calculator. Now this function calculator would either say add or subtract, okay? It should add or subtract these values, var x is equals to 9, var y is equals to 7. So, okay, this calculator function will add or subtract, but does it actually know how to add or subtract? No. So what should we do? What do you guys suggest? What should we do? Show her how to subtract, right? So let's do that. Let us create two separate functions for addition and subtraction. So addition is this. Now, if I wanna say console, no, let me return a plus b. So if I want to return a plus b over here, will I get any values inside a plus b right now based on how I just wrote down the function addition? Will I though? The variable a and b, it doesn't exist right now. So for that, I will need to make parameters with a and b. Now it should work. So, okay, let me create another function called subtract. Let me just write on the whole thing, subtraction. That's a long name. Okay, so a and b, then I return a minus b. So now we have our functions that essentially does addition and subtraction, right? Is that clear for everyone? Esra, since you were having issues, please pay close attention to this and ask me questions throughout the way. I have no problems answering. Okay, so a plus b and a minus b, all that's good, very good. The functions are created. But now, calculator function still doesn't know how to add or subtract. So what I can do is I can console.log. I think I added space for no reason. No? Okay. So I can console.log the add function. Now, if I just pass in this, will I get anything? So what do I have to do? Okay, we are calling the addition function, and let's do that over here. So it was called calculator, right? And inside this, I will pass addition. No, but that's where you are wrong. If I try to pass in A and B over here, will it work? No, it won't. So for Esra, you said that it should work. Now, my question for you is, does A and B exist anywhere else other than inside these functions? No, right? So if I just write down A and B over here, it won't make sense. So it's just us passing in the functions. That's just gonna be it. Subtraction. So we are just essentially assigning addition to add. So addition is gonna be equal to add. Subtraction is gonna be equal to sub. So whatever is inside is gonna be over here. Now, my question is, the function add has everything that the function addition does. But just console.logging like this won't work, right? So I have to do this, x, comma, y. Does that make sense, everyone? Esra, does that make sense for you as well? So in this way, we are actually passing the values that are inside the calculator function into our function addition. So let's do the same for our function sub. Just change this to sub. Okay, so now you guys tell me, what do you think the answer is gonna be? And just get rid of this. Exactly, you don't have to call the addition function again. Why? Because add function is essentially taking in whatever's inside addition function. So it's gonna do the same work. All right, so back to my question. Exactly, you're correct. Add already has a copy of the addition. So let me write down node class 16 and 2. Does that make sense for everyone? Make sense, Esra? Does that make sense for you as well? All right, amazing. If you guys do still have questions about the callback functions, please let me know now. I'll repeat. So we kind of understand how it's working. Can you repeat how does the add have a copy of the function? Just to confirm I understand correctly. So can we say add over here is a variable? It is. Like I said, a variable is a container that can hold anything. Okay? A variable can hold values. A variable can hold objects. A variable can hold functions as well. Does that make sense? Yes, it's a function in this case because I'm passing a function. So now if I pass in the function addition, is it safe to say that the function add will take in whatever is inside the function addition? Okay. Now, if the function add has the exact copy of that function, can we use the function add inside this block, inside the function calculator? Amazing. So that kinda makes it easier for us to use different functionalities from different functions without having to create those functions again. That's the whole point of having callback functions. Does that make sense? So let's look at something that we've done so far. Let's look at one of our React codes, all right? What's a very simple React code that we had? Okay, we can take a look at the persons app actually. This is pretty simple. Exactly, right? This makes it much easier for you to work around with a lot of different functionalities. You know, API calling is kind of a similar concept as well. You're essentially taking in information or content from another place and using it in your app. So, okay, let's get back to this. You can see the code for the persons app, right? Okay, so as I was saying, if you take a look at this, what's happening over here? For the on change, what are we doing? We're essentially passing in a function that is already declared over here. So on change, what's gonna happen? This function is gonna work. The same concept. Do you guys find any similarities between the two? What do you guys think? Anyone answer? How is it similar? Okay. So over here on change, what are we doing? Should take a look at line 71. So we are passing a function, right? Now, in the previous example, were we also not passing a function for addition? Exactly. So we passing that function over here tells React to do exactly this. Hence, this is similar to what we've done in the previous example. Yes. In this case, it doesn't have a child component, but it just tells React on what to do on change. So we are just telling React the exact functionality that it has to do. React takes care of the rest in the background. Does that make sense? All right, amazing. So let's see. Let's go to Redux now. Where is Person's Redux? There we go. Okay, similar concept again. We have okay. For example, okay, this probably won't be a very good example because it's global. Okay, here you go. So for this, we have an on-click listener and we're passing the function handle add person, right? So when that happens, we're passing in this function over here, and React essentially goes through whatever code is inside this and makes necessary adjustments to our website. So it's a concept that kind of carries forward into React through and into Redux as well. And this is one of the most important concepts of programming, I would say. It's very useful. It definitely helps you when you're doing large scale projects and makes your life much easier. So I ask again, anyone, any questions about callback functions? What's a callback function? But I mean, even if you ask that question sincerely, I really don't mind explaining again. Okay. No, no. I won't I won't freak out. I'm happy to explain again. No problem. But yeah, do let me know if you still have a confusion in this, because the whole idea of bringing this back is so that you guys don't have problems later on when you're doing a React project, then Redux project when we have one. Because this is a very important concept and I want you guys to know it very well. All right, if you guys don't have any questions, let's kind of go through our Redux concept again then. Like a small recap of the week. So I ask you guys again I think the answer is going to be very similar, but I just want to know whether it's still the same answer for you guys. Okay, so my question is, how is Redux essentially working different from React, and what are the steps that it takes to make itself different from React? Answers are highly appreciated. It's a global state concept, definitely. But like my main question would be how, like what steps is it taking in order to make it different from React? So in general, it is like a global state concept, but how is it making itself different? The steps, the process of doing it. Essentially, the process of maybe converting a React project into a Redux project, you could say. So Sandesh shared a funny meme over here. But no, I don't look like that when you ask me questions more than twice. Okay, so it uses dispatch to take actions. Yeah, definitely. Several states can handle with just reducer. Yeah, you do have the correct idea over there. It's designed to manage state of the app in a predictable way. This is actually a good answer. That it's designed to manage state of an app in a more predictable way. Yeah, essentially that's what's happening, right? So we have three components when making a Redux project, right? What are they? We need a store, we need UI, and we need our event handlers, store, reducer, and event handlers. So help me out with the diagram over here. So three components, right? 1, 2, and 3. Good. So UI, event handler, store. Exactly, you are correct. So let me call this EH, event handler. Let me call this our store. And let me call this UI. So what's inside store? Well, one, we have our reducer, right? And what else? Reducer and state. Exactly. Reducer, state. So how does the flow work? So I click on a button over here, right? Say this is a plus button. So I click on this button, it triggers something. What does it trigger? It triggers the event handler. What the event handler does afterwards is essentially dispatches an action into our reducer. So let me call this dispatch and let's call this action. So I'm dispatching an action into the reducer. Once that's done, the reducer checks the actions, does what's necessary, and then it will be updating the state, and in turn, the state's gonna get passed into our UI. It's like a whole cycle. Make sense for everyone? Definitely. So whenever you click a button on your website, what happens is it triggers an event, right? So it triggers an event handler. In this case, maybe on click. An event handler function, actually, because we are essentially passing the functions. So the event handler function, what it does, it dispatches an action. In other words, it has to tell the reducer what the user wants us to do. So once the action is dispatched into the reducer, the reducer will take a look at the action, compare it with whatever commands we have given it, and it's going to update the state. And the state, after being updated, in turn is going to update our UI component. Does that make sense, Samain? Amazing. So that is actually the basic of Redux. That's the very basic. But I believe yesterday and day before yesterday, we've seen the we've seen the concept of slice. The last time Liam said that the state will be stored first and then it will be updated in the UI. Yeah, that's what's happening. It's updating the state, and then the state in turn will be updated in the UI. Because it's more like these are values, and this you could consider as a variable. If only the variable's values get updated, this is gonna get updated as well. Where the state will be stored. The state is being stored in the store itself. So the state already exists in the store and it's connected to the UI. The UI shows whatever's in the state. And once an action is sent to the reducer will check the actions, do whatever it has to do, and update the state. Once the state is updated, then the state will be passed on to the UI for changes. No, there is no other place to store it. We are storing it in one centralized storage system. Clear for everyone? Amazing. So yeah, like I was saying, then we have the concept of slice. So what do you guys know about that? Anyone? So the reducer is divided into slices, and each slice has its own reducer, correct? Slice is a way to give every component an individual reducer. Exactly. Each state have number of states. So just so that you don't have to worry about multiple states like that, that's why we have our slice, exactly. But yes, there could be multiple states inside a reducer, but just so that we don't have to do all that, we take care of it as slices. So each and every reducer will have its own state, right? It's something like that. So what slice will do, you see this big reducer, it's being divided into smaller ones, like so. 1 part, 2 part, 3 part. All right, so each are slices of their own and reducers of their own. This is useful when you have multiple features or multiple components going on. It makes it much more easier and detailed. It makes it easier for everyone to understand when you're collaborating together. So are we clear about the basic concepts of redux and how do we feel about it? State is outside the slices. No, because each slice has its own reducer and the reducer has a state of its own, right? Does the main reducer, is it relatable to any component? The main reducer, there's no such thing in a way that the main reducer is just compiling all the reducers together. The main reducer is only being sent into index.js so that it's available for any of the components in the app. But the main reducer itself does not have like that much of functionality. The main functionalities are inside the slices, the individual reducers. So the main state is divided among the slices. Now, the thing is, main state, each features, they have their own state, right? For example, from React projects, if you remember, we had multiple states for multiple things, right? For example, there was a state for our notes. Then we had a state for the feature of hiding the form and displaying the form. So all these have states of their own, and these are features of their own as well. So each feature, they have their own state. In order to make it more synchronized and detailed, we are dividing those into slices and putting a state into each of the reducers based on the features. Does that make sense, Amina? Amazing. All right. Any other questions from Redux? So reducer doesn't really have the slice. Slice itself contains the reducer. So slice is essentially the container for the reducer and the state. You could say it creates a temporary store for that feature. So Marwa added a video over here. Let me take a look at it. Exactly. This is what's happening. If you guys take a look into the chat, there's like a sort of animation that Marwa uploaded. So if you take a look at that animation, in React, it's being passed on from parents and children. But for React with Redux, it's being sent to a separate component altogether, a separate place, which is called the store. And the store is essentially updating the state, which is sending values to the necessary points. Does that make sense, everyone? Thank you for the animation, though, Marwa. Anyone, any questions? For sure, I can repeat. So, how this is working is slice, what it does, you see there's like a big reducer over here, right? It has a lot of information inside. So what slice does, okay, I think I should clear this out first. So Samain, when you ask me to repeat, do you want me to repeat the entire basic of Redux or just how the slice is working? Just let me know about that. Slices, got it. So, okay, you see a big reducer over here, right? It has all the states for all the components. Now, doesn't it get messy when too many things are in one place? Isn't it better to have it organized in different sections? That's why we divide it into slices. So every single slice will hold a part of the reducer. So essentially, we can say that every slice will have a small reducer of its own. And as we know, the reducers have a state within itself. So each reducer will have a state of its own, and each slice will have a reducer of its own. Does that make sense? Amazing. Anyone else? Any questions? All right. Yeah, I hope you guys understood the concepts properly. If you have questions, definitely do not hesitate to ask. We are here even during the labs and office hours. But this was essentially the basics week for Redux. And we're gonna probably do a project in front of you guys next week. But it's always good to have the basics cleared out with small examples so that later on it doesn't affect you as much. But yeah, if you do still have problems, definitely check out the lecture video. We are still here to help as well. Do not hesitate to send us an email to support. We can definitely help you out. So Marwa added another image for the content. Let me see. So it's okay. So it's essentially a cycle of the app, the life cycle of the app, you could say. Yes, exactly. So application state goes through selectors into the React components, and it goes into action creators, which are connected to the API calls, and the actions are sent to the root reducer. The root reducer sends those actions to the slice reducers, which means it figures out which part of the code it needs to refer to or which slice it needs to refer to. It goes through that, does necessary changes, updates the state, and the system keeps on going. Yeah, this is actually a very detailed image for that. Thank you for that again. But yeah, if you guys do still have problems, let me know during the lab here as well. But for now, I would say like this is the end of the lecture. Hope this week was fruitful for you guys. We have the weekend coming in. Definitely take a look into the contents for Redux so that next week when we're doing a project in front of you, you can have a live demo and kind of see how we are working through it. If you have the basics locked in, understanding what we're doing during the lecture won't be that hard. All right, so let's go on a 10-minute break and we will come back for our lab. Veda says, thank you for your disengaging review lesson. Really appreciate it. No worries. I mean, it's always best to have an engaging session. Doesn't matter if it's a review or even during a lecture. The more you guys interact with us with questions, the more you actually get to know. Because we are essentially giving you a overview of how things are going and how we kind of generalize the learning process. But for you, but everyone learns in a different pace, everyone learns in a different way. So for you to be able to make it more personalized, you you have to kind of interact and ask questions based on how you understand better. Like when we're helping you guys one-on-one, we can definitely sort of talk to you and figure out how to help you out better in person. But when you're actually following a lecture, it's always good to ask questions and make sure you're engaged to the lecture. That way you don't kind of drift away. And also you get to learn stuff the way you understand it. So it's always good to engage, and I will always appreciate if you guys keep this kind of engagement during the lectures because it's helpful for us as it is for you. Yeah, no worries. I mean, I'm happy to help. I'm just glad you guys understood the concept. If you still have issues, I don't mind explaining again. So, like I said, let me know. I don't have any problems repeating the things. All right, so yeah, let's go on our 10-minute break. See you guys then. Okay.